Γεια σας φίλες και φίλοι. Αυτό είναι ένα βίντεο για τα όργανα της Ελλάδας. Γι' αυτό είμαι στο Άργος. So the reason I'm doing this video in Chicago of all places is because originally I wanted to just, do my normal video, talk about it and everything, and then I remembered I know somebody right next door. Dimitri actually, right. The vocative case, right?
Correct.
It's Greek language, man.
Sorry, dude.
It's all Greek to me. Dimitri, I know many guys who can play the lira very well. I know many guys who can play the lira and the sazi very well. I know fewer who can play the mandolin also very well. You're the only one I know who's pretty much like proficient at virtually every single Greek traditional instrument there is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This guy, here's footage, here's proof, here's the receipts that this guy is insanely good at this. So, like, how did that happen? Like, tell us your background a little bit.
Okay, so background is that I started very young. Grew up in a Greek household. I'm born and raised in Chicago, but first language was Greek. Musical exposure always was Greek.
Right.
Riding in the car, my father was blaring bouzoukia. Going through the Greek school systems and Greek dance groups. More exposure, more stuff was introduced to me, and I fell in love with all of it.
If you're watching this video like 6 months from now, 1 year from now, you've started a series recently.
I did, yeah.
Which is Shit I Wish I Knew.
Shit I Wish I Knew.
Which is, that's some shit I wish existed years ago when I was learning Greek music. It's pretty much the first English language program.
Right.
Explain it a little bit for us.
Yeah, so being flooded, in my messages with how do you do this,
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, man.
Yeah.
I wish I knew that. And it's a request based, so whoever reaches out and wants to learn something, and if I know it, I'm gonna record a video.
I have a request for you. Can you explain everything? Thank you.
Yeah.
Every technique of every instrument of every era, that's my request. So
We'll get to it.
we'll get to it eventually. Yeah, so now we're at the third episode, which is the Cretan Lira, I think it was the last one.
Lira was the last one, and then coming up is gonna be clarinet. I had a request for clarinet.
Very cool. So basically what you can do is if you're watching this video maybe like 6 months from now, 1 year from now, this is like the very general overview. And then if you're interested in and I'm going to timestamp you can like you can pause this video and go over to Dimitrios' channel and you'll have a like 10-minute video just about like one of those instruments. So
that's the idea.
And thank God I found the one man who plays pretty much all of them. So
it's a one-stop shop.
It's a one-stop shop, but thank you so much for accepting this, man.
Thank you very much for coming, making the trek down from Canada, man.
Yeah, I had to try the deep dish pizza. I had to.
We don't only eat deep dish, man.
That's what we think of Chicago. We think that that's all you eat. Like that's our image of you guys. Like
if I ate deep dish, you'd need a wider lens. Yeah, like you said, the little known fact about Greece is that we have infinitely many bagpipes. From the islands, we call them tsambouna, which is a variation of the word symphonia, which means two sounds at once. And the reason that we call it symphonia is have two pipes, and they're supposed to be played in sync.
Interesting. So you're playing them the same melody in sync on both of them.
Correct. Unless we start getting into the variations, and I'm going to show different instruments from different islands. Before we had the bag and before we had the big instrument, what we give to the little kids to learn is maduraki or monotsambuno. Single tsambouna. Very simple. You put your mouth over it and then you go for it. So I'll play a quick melody, I guess.
So cool.
These are all goat herders that made this stuff.
Yeah.
By themselves, it's whatever they had available to them within an immediate radius. So if they were by a river, you knew that you had straw.
Yeah.
From the straw, you could make both the reed and the instrument itself.
Yeah, and those reed instruments, like that kind of sound that you heard, by the way, is like it's among the oldest in that region, like Mediterranean, Middle East and everything. So as far back as Sumer, like the first known civilizations, you have those kind of reed instruments. You had the avlos in ancient Greece.
Correct.
The which is pretty much just a variation of that. It's a reed instrument like that.
Pedozali.
Pedozali. War dance, some say, like they're, you know, it's like super.
I mean, I think they dramatized how much of dancing happened before war. There's never been in a fist fight and said, hold on, bro, let me get my dance on first.
Knowing the Cretans, though, it fits them.
All bets are off. So we leave from Crete and we go to the Kyklades. Islands like Naxos, Mykonos. They used Sambuna as well. And again, it's 5 holes on each side, similar to Ashkumandura.
Yeah.
The difference starts happening with the construction itself and the tuning. You have higher pitched sambunas, and instead of the single body of wood, they started using cow horn.
Also notice that it's the same bag, right, that you were using for the Ashkumandura. So the sound mostly is down to the actual pipe part of the bagpipe, rather than the bag itself.
Has nothing to do with the sound. We'll give it a tie here. This is modern solutions to old problems, is using a rubber band.
Purists will be like, it's not true music if you're using a rubber band. And here's the thing, like, I think both Dimitrios and I were very like, we want to keep traditional music, everything alive, but that we're also not purists. I think there's, you know...
No, we try and stay as true to it as possible. Yeah. But if there's a reason to inconvenience me when there's such a convenient way to do it.
That's the thing, like, it doesn't change the sound of the music, you know, to add a rubber band. It's okay, the music is the same. Yeah.
As long as I can use my rubber band, we'll be okay.
Such a like powerful sound, you know, like. So,
pretty powerful.
Kept falling down, and then this. See, it's kind of, people like this who invented the wheel.
So we leave from Kyklades, you go a little bit east, and you go into the Dodekanisa. Dodekanis. This Tsambuna is from Kalymnos. And it's got a different orientation. We have 3 on one side and 5 on the other. So this is where we start adding drones. Next one. Now that we talked about the drones, we have to leave the islands, we have to go to the mainland. And this is where the Bulgarians are going to go nuts and they're going to kill you.
It's one of the things also, like when we say the traditional instruments of Greece, half of them, like oud, is shared with a lot of it's. When we say Greek traditional instruments, we're talking instruments that happen to be used in Greece. Some of them may be of Greek origin, some of them may not be.
We're aware.
We're aware. I've made a video before where I talked about the fact that music styles do not correspond to countries perfectly. So the idea is like Thracian music is Thracian music. Like 99%, Thracian Bulgarian music and Thracian Greek music, they have more in common. in terms of clothing, in terms of music and everything, than those Bulgarians do with other Bulgarians and those Greeks do with other Greeks. There were no nation states for most of history, right? Where you have like this perfect and everything. So there is a Thracian identity that is just Thracian, no matter if they're Bulgarian or Greek, right? Like we just did a Serbian song together, and I was like, can you play the kaval and the gaida? Because it's the same fucking style.
It's the same instrument.
It's the same instrument, it's the same, it's in 7/8, it's the same kind of melodic pattern and everything. And nationalists will try to say, no, it's different. It's really not. It's really not that different in everything.
No, if anything, the style has changed recently. Otherwise, you had an exchange of population.
Yeah.
You had Greek speaking on their side of the border.
Yeah.
The border that came way after.
Yeah,
And you had Slavic speaking tribes in our side. That whole idea of what's ours and what's yours, that's complete bullshit.
Whenever you were on the like borders of the countries and everything, like the music of Epiros is the music of Epiros, and it's even worse when it comes to we're gonna get to the Albania and Greece tensions and everything. We're gonna get in trouble, man.
See, now you're just fishing for comments.
More comments, more views, man. That's the game. One thing, because I tell people that I get musicians from a culture to like play a certain sound, but they're like, but you've gotten like Serbs to play Greek music. I'm like, because again, it's regional. When I say the same culture, it would be stupid to get like some guy who only knows Cretan music to play like Thracian Greek music. A Bulgarian Thracian knows better about that Greek music than yeah. It's regional. It's not national. It's the big thing about the regional styles.
Right. That's a great point.
Thracian music is very characterized by the gaida, which
absolutely. So that's the last piece of the bagpipe puzzle.
Yeah.
We move from the islands. We go way up north, as far as northeastern Greece, and we have the gaida.
Yeah. Also, like Thracian music, it always starts with this. It always starts with. The gaida has like a very strong drone, like a very strong.
We call it buri.
Buri.
Yeah, buri is on this side.
And the actual flute has more holes than the other ones, right?
So you have a chromatic scale. Okay, so I can switch between major, minor. I can do hizzas. You also have from the middle and down, and then from the middle and up. So that's a very different instrument than what we have in the Tsambuna and Askumadura.
Oh, tulumi. Do you have a tulumi?
I do.
We don't want to forget the Pontian Greeks. So the Pontians, for those who don't know, it's Pontus. It's the northern part of Anatolia, the Black Sea, or the Black Sea Greeks, basically. The ones with a dialect even weirder than the Cretans, believe it or not. They have an even...
It's the closest to ancient Greek.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, it's the most...
It's really something special that they've kept that dialect. An extremely proud people.
As they should be.
So yeah, it's something that it's respect.
Yeah, I have so much respect for them.
Totally.
Everything they went through, the fact that they've kept the language and everything. I mean, it's insane. They're still there. You can't. There's this saying about us, the French Canadians. It was a French guy. He said they are a race that does not know how to die. And I think that applies to the Pontians.
I think so.
They don't know how to die. They're there, and you can't like.
Man, you're giving me goosebumps. That's special stuff.
That's special stuff. Yeah. If you're a flute player, can you like automatically play bagpipes, or is there like is it more or less interchangeable?
It's very interchangeable.
Okay.
And I think even the clarinet that we brought in after, way after, which a lot of our style is based on the flute playing. Even the bagpipes as well. We kept true to the origin. So kaval, I mean, to be honest with you, this is a Bulgarian-made kaval.
Yeah.
But no different at all than what we play. I mean, very interchangeable. Like we said, there was no border.
Okay, Thracian music is Thracian music.
I like that.
Usually when you listen to Thracian music now, the kaval and the gaita play almost like the exact same ornaments at the same time. They're super in sync.
They're very in sync, two different frequencies. And I think I love referring to it as the wall of sound. Everybody's playing the same thing, but each instrument is hitting a different frequency.
Right.
So it's like smack in the face. Once we start going a little further south, we start getting into the floyera.
Floyera, that's the one, right?
The miniature version.
Right. So it's like a close cousin of the kaval, but that's the one that was used.
It's the 1/3 of it.
And those used to be the dominant ones in mainland Greece.
So we had instruments like the floyera, we had instruments like the zurna. So these are always played in pairs, and it's loud, and it cuts, and it's... Cool thing stylistically with the playing is that when we play zurna, we do circular breathing.
Yes, that's how you maintain the air the whole time and
so
everything.
You'll use your cheeks as a bag.
So that's when your cheeks players their cheeks
blow
are
them out, and they'll take a breath as they're blowing with their cheeks.
That's insane.
So yeah, I think I can pull it off.
Let's see.
So breathing as I'm blowing out. I'm not
circular breathing. That's insane.
Right. So that's further south, and then up north we have the big guy, which sound-wise it's not all that different. It's very loud. It's very screechy.
Yeah. Thank God you don't live in an apartment because you could never practice this.
So we had instruments like the floyera, we had instruments like the zurna throughout all of Greece.
Yeah.
And then because of convenience, because of modernization and all of that, we brought in the clarinet.
Which completely changes the sound of mainland Greece.
So we use Albert system. So it's the old system which mimics what we play on the floyera. So we'd never changed to the BAM system is what they call it now. The modern one that you see in the marching band. This is the older one. It's got less keys, and the holes themselves, it mimics exactly what we would play on floyera, kaval, that type of thing. So I'll play a little bit of a miroloi from Ibero, a little pentatonic.
It's literally just a clarinet. Like it's a clarinet. It's the one that they had, and yet it sounds so different.
Yeah, it's the style.
It's the style. It's all in the style. And I've always said that the instrument, the style matters more than the instrument.
Correct.
They're basically just like, you had a guy who played the floyera And he just plays it like a flauta. I mean, we're gonna get to the violin, for example,
Right.
and in many countries, you see old, like the first generations who adopted violin, they put it like this, like a. There's a lot of that, all the old pictures and everything, because again, to them it was a lira, so they're just like, oh, I guess I'll just. So now we're getting to the bowed instruments, one of the important categories of Greek music. So let's start with the many liras.
The many liras.
The many liras of Greek music.
The most rudimentary out of all the collection of liras is that we have today is the Thracian.
The
and
Thracian
I think it's
lyre.
the most closely related to what would be considered the Byzantine lira. This still uses gut strings. Playing wise, you have high G, low D, high A.
Okay.
And that's to kind of, again, complement the style of playing, very open, play a Thracian tune. This is Thracian lira, that's right. So up north, they use it in Thrace, they use it in Drama, parts of Macedonia. Moving from Thrace, we use the Politiki lira as well.
Right, and they call it Politiki because like the city, like Constantinople
Yeah.
and everything, right?
Yeah,
That's the
of course.
Constantinopolitan lira. Tip for anybody traveling to Greece, you won't find it's still Constantinople. It's like in the airport.
Correct.
You gotta be careful because like I was looking for Istanbul and I went, wait, it's still Constantinopolis.
We love our traditions,
Yeah.
but we don't change it.
But I mean, Istanbul is a Greek name though because it comes from Eastern Polis, like
Eastern Polis.
yeah, so Eastern Polis, so it's still. This one just sounds. I love this one. This is if you listen to a lot of like Ottoman classical music.
yeah.
That's like the main
It's
like
the king.
with the Kanonaki and this like it's like their
It's a beautiful combination.
Beautiful.
And we use it very much in our side of it too.
yeah. The historical music that the Greeks would have played there. That's
Correct.
the one that you use it.
Correct. So anything that's still played in Turkish traditional music too, it's very much the same because it was the same. And then we have other variations. We start
Yeah.
going into the islands and show the one from Dodekanisa.
With the little bell things.
Yeah. So we start getting into the percussive element of it too.
Right.
So in Karpathos, Rhodos, and Crete, we see Yerakokuduna is what we call them. Kuduni is the word for bell. Yerak is a bird, so they named it bird bell. It's to hold rhythm while we're playing. So a susta from Dodekanisa.
Right, so the bells, and yeah, I've heard, for example, there's this from Elunda, for example, I've heard some recordings from that part that use the bells. I haven't heard them so much. I don't know, do they also use it on the like Rythmic side of everything, the bells and everything?
Depends. Historically, before the lauta ended up in some of those villages,
Yeah.
all they had was a lira, maybe a drum. I've seen also recordings where they were using spoons. let's move to Crete because we did mention Crete.
Possibly the most famous liras in...
The most famous liras.
Yeah.
So before we get into the today's lira, let's get into what the original form was.
So the pre-Styriakis and everything, like...
Stagakis and lira.
Stagakis, sorry, yeah.
Right. And we'll talk about Stagaki too.
Yeah.
But before we got to him, we had a lira that's more closely resembles this. You had a single body, no glossa, no tongue, or the fingerboard doesn't extend down and up like it would a violin. Higher pitched generally, and again, bells.
Yeah, see, that's the sound that I've heard in many like older recording, like Condilius and everything, like those.
The old way of playing this lira was rhythmic.
That's
Modern contemporary Cretan, it's kind of the way that I love the way that he did it. It's Alexandros Papadakis was on an interview once, and they asked him about it. He goes, there was pre-Skordalo and after Skordalo.
Right.
Okay, Skordalos was a famous lira player at the time, around the 50s, 60s. Is when he was really popular, really coming up. And what he did was he took the laudo and he placed all the rhythm on the laudo. And really created the lira as a solo instrument, as something that was there just for melody.
Right.
As opposed to having to do rhythm, melody. Along with that style of playing, you also had modifications that happened on the lira. And that goes back to, we were talking about Stagaki. Stagaki, who's right now in the Rythmic, his grandfather, Manuel Stagaki, was the one that came up with the bigger body, the way that it is like this. He added the tongue.
Yep.
Basically modeled it after a violin.
And now Cretan liras are standardized basically to that Stagakis model.
Stagaki's model.
Yeah, if you go to the Rethymno, here's some footage of me visiting the music museum. They're great. They'll play instruments for you. Absolutely. If you go to Rethymno, that's like one of the places you have to go. And it's amazing how like this one family has like standardized the entire like lira tradition of this entire island. It's really crazy.
And now I'm gonna say something totally biased that we mentioned.
Yeah.
But a big shout out to grandson Manuel, who made me this lira. It's probably one of my favorites in my collection.
Yeah. Ela, ela, mi crimule moniamu.
Sure.
That's the one that you hear. I mean, Cretan music is dominated by this. I mean, this is the main thing that you'll associate. Like you start listening to Cretan music, you'll associate lauto in this basically.
That's it.
We can go to well, you mentioned the violin. There's a lot about the violin because I've always argued that the most well integrated instrument in the modal traditions from like the Middle East to India even to Greece, all those traditions that are like very modal and melodic and everything that share those similarities. I've always argued the violin is the most well integrated.
Sure.
Because it's really the most like a santouri. You can only modify the sound of it to a certain extent. You don't have that much dynamic range with it, right? Even a clarinet. The violin is so insanely versatile in terms of how you can make it sound, right? And it was so easy for people in this region of the world to just literally just start playing it like a lira, basically, kind of, apply all those, Yeah.
Right there.
Right.
So, interestingly enough, is fine. I played a style that was specific to Kanya. So it's cut, it's ta, 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 ta. But if we take the same instrument and we listen to something from the Kyklades, if I play Nisiotikan violin, it's a totally different style.
Yeah.
Song like Armenaki.
Completely different
Totally
sound, right?
different.
Totally different sound. And of course, in Nisiotika, like the violin is like the main kind of like melodic
Violin is
instrument.
king.
Generally integrated in most regions of Greece, like or like
Yeah. So they use it in mainland too. And in the mainland, the band is clarinet, violin, lauto, later the guitar, and a drum. And then, like we said in Crete, violin, lauto, or lira lauto.
And again, as we mentioned before, again, like you're holding it right now. We have like old photographs of like the first generations of Iranians, for example, who used to play the violin. They played it like a kemençe because they just saw it as a kemençe basically, or as a lira, and they started. It's so easy to apply. For example, like you'll see the Irish. It's the same instrument.
It is.
It's literally the same instrument. And
This
then
is not a Greek instrument.
no, it's the violin is. You listen to Carnatic music, the Southern Indian music. The exact same instrument, but it's so versatile. So now we're back again to Pontus on the shores of the Black Sea.
Of course. Podiaki lira, so we changed body shape. What I've been told was that they modeled it after the woman's body.
The what?
A woman's body.
A woman's body.
Correct. So you have the body, you have a neck, and you have the head.
Right.
And it comes out towards the bottom. I don't know how true that is, but I like it. Why not?
Very different style from the other ones. I feel like there's probably more overlap between the different lira styles of like Greece and like the islands and everything. In this one,
It's its own thing.
you feel the geographical difference, right?
Oh, totally. Even the way that we play it. So the other liras, we play with the nail.
The nail is but this is pressed like Western
This one is
instruments, right?
pressed, and we always play 2 strings at a time.
The lifeblood of like that culture. It's insane.
Totally.
There's so much like history and sadness and pain associated to that. I think I call it, it's kind of like what the duduk is for the Armenians and what they went through.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like,
Very similar story with both of those.
Yeah, a very similar story because of where they were and everything, more hate comments.
There we go.
Now we've reached the lute family of instruments, so that's this is the ones with the bridge.
one.
This one, yeah, I would say that's what a lute is. Because the problem is you have like the medieval lute and it's called a lute, but then it's also the name of all those instruments like that, so it's kind of like confusing. Historical on a lute, which is interesting, is that for most of history in that region of the world, they were like they exist since like ancient Sumeria and everything, but it was usually lyres and like harp-like instruments. Ancient Greeks, they did have a thing like padura, I think that they called paduris, yeah, and it's like, but it was like the Romans, and it was like some tertiary. It really wasn't like that. It was the harps and lyres and everything, and it's with the arrival of the oud, with the expansion of the Islamic world and everything, that this category instrument pretty much becomes like the main like stringed instrument of that region of the world, basically. and everything from guitar and everything comes down from that. So let's look at the oud actually.
For those of you that are watching, the floor is smothered with instruments. And we're just...
I'm gonna just take a picture later just to show it. It's so funny. So this is, I mean, this is the universal instrument of what I jokingly refer to as the Aman region.
The Aman.
Because from Iran, when we will run out of lyrics, Aman. Turkish Aman. Balkans Aman. Actually perfectly corresponds with like that system of music.
100%.
It's the Aman region, and the oud is like historically, I mean, it's even medieval Europe, that's what they were playing, and then it became the lute, and then, you know, so you go to Constantinople, the 1000s AD, they had ouds back then. That's an old instrument, used to be far more prevalent, obviously. The oud doesn't have frets, and of course, special mention to I have a lafta. Pretty much just a fucking oud, but with frets. They're like, it's not an oud. Why are you playing the lafta in place of an oud? It's the same. It's a little higher pitch. Just go fuck yourselves. It's the same. It's the same goddamn instrument. From the oud, you get some variations, and that's where we get the lauto.
Right. We have two different variations of the lauto, two main variations.
Yes.
Originally, we have what we call now the steriano or nisiodico, which means the mainland or the
Islander.
island.
Yeah. Okay. That's the one that I have. That's the one that I play in my song.
And that's this guy.
Yeah.
It's higher pitched than the Cretan, which I'll show after, which came after. Tune A, D, G, C.
The strings are steel, right?
Strings are steel. Yeah. In its original form, yeah, they used to use gut strings.
Yeah. Would you say it's primarily for chord progressions or melody?
Chord progressions.
Chord progressions primarily, right?
That's how it was. And there was actually a player that changed that a little bit. Christos Zotos was his name. He was a mainland player. He was the one that really innovated and started doing a lot of the melody stuff.
Right.
I don't know if he was just fed up with all the clarinetists taking his prime.
He wanted to have a little bit of like, I want to do some of the main stuff too and everything.
Yeah, this guy would shred. I mean, you know, say we're... That's more common of what he would be from. The Steriano Lauto, and we go down to the anomaly of Greece, the Texas of Greece. We go down to Crete, and they've created their own version.
That is the most metal instrument of all of Greece, probably. With
Undeniably one of my favorite to play.
Yeah.
Just because of the energy. So we take the body, we elongate it,
we
tune down a little bit, so we have a tuning of E, A, D, G. And here we have both percussive and melodic at the same time.
Yes.
Okay? So let's take Kanonaki Sirto. It's a 4. Almost sounds like heavy metal.
And I could never get enough of that, just the vurtsa.
So there's a joke amongst Cretan musicians, is that the guy that actually knows how to play, he's doing the melody. The guy that kind of knows how to play is playing chord, and the guy that doesn't know how to play is just vurtsa, keeping time.
chords on this instrument are purposefully muted in that style, kind of, which is weird because usually every other instrument you want the chords to resonate
That's
and
part
everything.
of the style of music.
Yeah, but in Cretan music you want the chords to be very staccato. It's like it's about the rhythm, and it's almost to the point where, because you have some renditions by Marsakis, for example, where it's like mostly the chord progression, right? And it's almost to the point where I almost want to say that it's primarily a percussion instrument that happens to also play chords. You know what I mean? It's almost like that vurtsa is almost like the primary function of it. And again, back to the point of how much style transforms instruments, like this is more or less the mandolin that you'd find in Croatia, Italy, you know, it's, identical, but it sounds completely different. It's, again, the style informs the sound of instruments so much so that it's always something that I say when people say I'm learning an instrument, you're not just learning an instrument, you're learning a style associated with it, right? When you're learning, let's say, classical guitar, I don't know, are you learning like classical Western or flamenco?
Two different things.
Yeah, you don't just learn instruments, you learn styles that come with instruments. And again, there's this theme that we keep coming back to where in the recent centuries, many Western instruments were introduced in Greece. Yeah, we'll take it, but we'll make it unrecognizable from what it was originally, you know? Before we move on to the really modern ones, sazi, a few centuries back, Ottoman rule and everything, this would have been far more common.
Oh my God, yeah.
That used to be the bouzouki of its own time, probably. You know what I mean? There's a tendency for Greeks that like whatever instrument like is like more associated with it. Oh, it's the Turks, but like no, like Kanonaki, Udi, they were there before the Turks. That's probably a Turkish instrument in origin. Like most historians would agree, it came out of. And actually, a lot of people believe that the bouzouki might be descended from early sazis. Actually,
probably they trace it back to the ancient banduris, but it's. You know what? If you start doing the tracing game, it's how far back and when. So from the sazi, we start getting into the bouzouki family. 3 sizes of the instrument: small, medium, large.
Well, I guess we have different names for them, right? Because bouzouki is like the standard big size one.
Correct.
Suras, the like middle one, and then baglamas is like the
we have baglama.
Tiny one.
Tiny. So these, the dzura and the baglama were more common in Rebetika exclusively. We don't see them very much in Laika. Earlier recordings, 50s, 60s, 70s, you might see it, and then it just started disappearing.
Also, just in terms of terminology, because often people get confused. In Turkey, they call the saz balama, but it's not this. So when they talk about balama, they're talking about the saz, and this is just like the same name ended up being applied to this one.
Correct. So a lot of times what this would do, or its place in the orchestra as a whole, was to hold rhythm. So you'll hear in a lot of old Rebetika recordings, you'll hear that noise behind it, right? It's also not easy to play a lot of melody on this thing. And we're tuned D-A-D.
D-A-D, yeah. Like the tsuras.
Like the dzura. So we'll go into the dzura now. Not anything different.
Also, I want you to pay attention. That's something that you hear a lot, like at America. There's the chromatic passages. So there's a lot of stacking together chromatic, like let's say like that is like a big thing about Greek music, and this is one of those things. It's all the way back in ancient Greek music.
Yep.
They had the chromatic genus. The microtones are also like over this. So and harmonic. I love the sound of your zuras, by the way. It's yeah, can you play Misirlu on that? I wanna. Sure. It's the national.
Depends who you ask.
Really? Well, I would say generally, right? That's it's accepted as the.
It's the most popular instrument.
Do you want to try now Kanonaki Saduri, the zithers?
I hate you.
They're a bitch to tune, those ones. So now we get to the zithers, and there's two of them in Greek music. There's the santouri, which is this one. So that's the hammered dulcimer.
Right.
A hammered dulcimer is as a category type. I'm gonna take your iced coffee, like I'm gonna drink it on because it makes really good iced coffee. By the way, iced coffee is from Greece.
Is it? We have frappe.
Frappe is from Greece.
My wife to Italy.
Yeah.
It was a couple years ago, and I asked them for iced espresso.
Yeah.
They looked at me like I was an alien.
They don't have that?
No, it's
No
not
way.
a thing.
They don't have that.
No, so it was like 110 degrees outside, and here I am sipping.
Like hot. The hammered dulcimer it's one of those like pan-Eurasian instruments. You find them in China.
Mm-hmm.
You find them Iran. The santouri is one of our.
Same word.
This is the santouri, which is the most closely. I think it sounds a lot like the Romanian sambal, Hungarian cymbalum, and everything. Sounds a lot like those. So you can demonstrate it to us.
Yeah, sure. Let's do a simple taksim. A background instrument. It's something that was used to. I always love using the analogy. We played a festival, so I was playing. I was hired to play santouri, and the whole group comes up and like it's like the sprinkle. It's like that
Right, that
salt,
little
that flavor right at the end, and that's what it is. I mean, it was something that was added. It's not an essential instrument to anything, but.
Also, I wanted to mention, you said you'd be playing a taksim on the saduri. So taksim is a form in those modal traditions,
Right.
where it's an improvisation basically. That's not there's no rhythm inherent to it, and it's kind of like this. You have it usually used to open pieces often.
Open or in the middle with what we call in English a solo. Aman aman. That's
The rebetes, when they go aman aman aman, it was in.
That's it. That's a form of taksim.
Along with the oud, this is one of those like universal instruments of mostly the Middle East. Can I make a request? Apoxenotopo.
Oh.
Classic. Of course, I sang the politically correct version, the 18 chrono, not the 12 chrono.
Right.
One of those Greek and Turkish instruments, really.
Correct.
One of those that's really shared. I hear this instrument and I think Constantinople.
100%.
Yeah.
That's where it came from. That's the repertoire that it's played.
Yeah.
Cappadocia as well.
Just that Domna Samio did a recording of songs from Cappadocia,
Sure.
but she's like, when it comes to Greek folk music, she's one of the she's amazing.
She was the encyclopedia, man.
She was the encyclopedia. I mean, like when.
And for a woman to do it at the time that she did it.
Yeah. And Kanonaki, I just wanted to add also, it's one of those instruments that I want to say you could never tell that it's a piece of Greek music or Turkish.
No.
The ornamentations, the styles, techniques, same.
100%. The frame drums. We have two main ones. We have dahare is what we call it. Bendir is
Bendir is what most
of the other cultures call it. Big frame drum. So the other frame drum, when we go into Ipiro, we have defi. So, darbuka, we call it tuberleki or darbuka.
What regions is it most associated with?
So, like we said, Constantinopolis, Mirni, we start going up on the north, so Thracians used it as well. The islands heavily, into the mainland, so Rumeli, wherever you didn't have a defi with the zils, you had Darbuka, Peloponneso, all of it.
Yeah, darbuka I would say is the closest there is to a universal percussion instrument in the Aman region. Yeah.
So this one is called Xirodaulo. It's a little dauli.
Lovely.
And this one is very specific to the Mesologi region. So again, like you said, with the little zurna, we see these. Original form is a wood shell with skin heads.
Right.
What I found out when we were researching is that now what they'll do is they'll take PVC pipe from sewers that are being built.
Okay.
Sewers or supply lines, and then plastic heads.
Right.
Okay? High pitched, powerful. Very, very powerful and very annoying after a while.
Yeah, it's like the zurnat. I imagine the two of them together.
So. And then from here, we're going to go to the big guy. And this one we see a lot in the Balkans. We have different versions of it.
Yes.
A lot in Middle East as well.
The pontoons, they use it also.
Pontoons use it.
We have it in Iran. That's also very, very...
very popular in the region.
Yeah.
I would have changed sticks, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I'll do another karsilama,
Yeah.
something that's more common in Ceres, where we had the long zurna.
Right.
That's what we'll play here too.
So that's the percussions, they play a big part of Greek music.
Huge in every aspect of what we do. I mean, unless you're really going to town on Taksimia, which is still because you've left the rest of the band playing rhythm.
Right.
That's when you've gone off the deep end on that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you're playing on rhythm to the dancer, and a lot of it is interaction. A lot of interaction. When we're playing, it's constantly looking at the leader. We dance in a line.
Yeah,
you know? And there's a leader and there's an end. So we're looking at the leader, and he's going to be the one, or she's going to be the one to direct which way this thing is going. We could slow down songs, we could speed them up, and it's all...
So it's the actual dancers who inform the rhythm and everything.
100%.
That's interesting.
100%. And it has to be that synergy.
Yeah. Because these are primarily like dance instruments. You always... Greek traditional music is so tied to... It's one of the things where like pedozali is like, it's a music genre and it's a dance.
Right.
You know, it's often in Greek traditional music. That's one of the things that it's music genres come with a dance.
99% of our stuff is related to events that are going to happen around dancing, around remembrance. We have the other side of it too, around funerals. That's its own genre. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. Was they would wait for these events to happen so that they could play their music, so that they can dance. And you're talking about a very different time and place where all this stuff comes from. And it was very closely related to church events or weddings or baptisms. All of those brought the community together, and they would dance and they would sing and they would party all as one.
Greek traditional music can't be taken out of its context.
Correct.
It's a context of food and the celebration. You know what I mean? It's like a package that comes with the food, that comes with the
Perfect example is when I'm trying to order one of these things. Depending on the time of year, I can't find it because they won't raise an animal just to slaughter it for my bagpipe.
the goat.
Exactly. So I have to wait until springtime when they're about to do the big slaughter for Easter, and then they'll start making.
And we've pissed off the vegans too, so that's we're just going through the.
These comments are gonna be fire.
We're gonna. There's also like I see Rosa Eskenazi you see in the background there.
Yeah.
It's like the pre-Rembetiko phase of like Anatolian music, and again this was people see the movie Rembetiko. It's amazing. I don't know if it's such a good movie. And again, like that music was, you had to go to the tavern on that hour. You know, it's always like, it was specific to a time and a place and an event.
Exactly. So once we started talking about Rebetiko, we changed the scenery completely too.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about the deke, so the hash houses, a totally outlawed type of music. That has very little, I can't say very little, but two different worlds.
Yes.
Because the traditional stuff that we're playing with the pipes and the strings and the festivals, those were everything for the community.
Yeah.
Once we start talking about Rebetiko, we leave the community and you're talking about something that's a totally subculture and not accepted.
The hash houses and everything, Metaxas closed down the hash houses. The songs are well known for like Aman Aman and drugs. That's the
Totally.
Yeah, like Tova Poriapti Bersia. It's like about the
bringing hash.
They're bringing hash from hashes. Like all the dudes in Corinthos are crying because like they didn't get the hash. Like that's the whole subculture of it. You know, if you just listen to musical records alone, you will never like fully grasp like what it's about. It's kind of like seeing a movie like in theaters versus like on your home screen.
Right.
Like on a big IMAX screen, that like, you know, like Dune 2, you know, French Canadian guy made it. Represent Canada.
Maple syrup, bro.
Maple syrup, bro.
Canada is the greatest country on earth. This is a fact.
It's kind of like watching Lord of the Rings on a cell phone.
Oh, exactly.
Sure, you're getting, it's the same, but
no, it's not the same.
Yeah, you gotta be there. You gotta feel the bagpipes blaring into your body and everything. So, you know, people, when you visit Greece, man, go to like events, go to like in August when there's all the Panaias and everything. That's the best. That's the best moment to go.
Unbelievable how much difference in such a small country. You know, my dad used to say an awesome joke.
Yeah.
He goes, 2 Greeks in a room, there's 7 opinions. And it's you see it with our music, you know. You have a country that's the size of Illinois, more or less, and 30-something instruments that we just pulled out today.
Every time I've talked to Cretans, they all tell me that like they don't understand episodic music, because episodic dances are like super slow and heavy, and then you have pedozari, like
Polar opposite.
Polar opposite, and like so it's so funny to talk to like you Epirotes talking about Cretan music. They're like, it's gonna give me a seizure. Such a tiny country, and different Greeks will literally not be able to vibe to other forms of the Greek music depending on how they're, you know, that's how different it is. Like those rhythmic things we're talking about, like in those traditions, Turks call it usul in the Ottoman classical system. It's these patterns basically. So, you know, we're talking about like the reggaeton, tum tatum tum. Bulgaria, there's a lot of tum tatum tum tum tatum tums. And now we did like a Pontiac one recently that was like in 5/4, 5s. I was like, I don't.
They love their 5s, man.
They love it.
And it's even cooler when you go to one of their parties, is that you see everybody bouncing on it.
The early Rembetsko, like Rosa Eskenazi and everything, usually have like ta 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 with the fifths, and it's usually an oud that accompanies it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This pattern here. We call it samiko.
Samiko, right?
So Thessalia they'll do sevens. You don't find them very often in Ibero.
Yeah.
But Thessalia will do. Karsilama.
Yeah, it's not just random and everything. There's this library of patterns.
Correct.
Basically.
And they're very regional specific. Again, that's so much linked to where they came from.
Karslama is like Asia Minor, completely,
100%,
completely
100%.
Asia Minor based. Yeah, time signatures. I use them as a reference for Western viewers, but we don't really think in terms of time signatures. We don't think in terms of. It's not that it's like for us, two patterns in 7/8. That's a pattern. That's another pattern.
Correct. And we always mark them as what dance they're.
Yes, again associated with the dance.
Always, always. So let's say, since we brought up Thracian, Madilato.
Right.
I'm never gonna call it by whatever the time signature is.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna know what the fuck I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
it's just Madilato.
It's
and you just-
Madilato, everybody knows that.
Right. You can translate it to Western terms, obviously, to explain it better, so it's in 7 and everything, but that's an important point. We do not think in terms of time signatures.
Correct.
We think in terms of percussional patterns.
Exactly.
That's what defines them. That's also one of the things about like those bagpipes, I think a lot of people may think that, oh, these are like, they've stayed the same for 2,000 years. No. Those are real, like that form, the category of bagpipes is old, but this specific construction and everything.
We do have like Byzantine paintings of askavlos.
Yeah.
So, like you said, the construction may somewhat resemble what it used to be. As far as sounding, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
If you find a piece that old that's in a museum, the reeds are not going to work, so you're not going to have an accurate representation of what this thing sounds like.
What a lot of people would say, oh, this is like authentic Greek traditional music. It might just be from this specific generation or before. It kept changing.
It depends what you're looking at, when you're looking at it, and that's very much where it becomes contextual.
A lot of people have this tendency to think of the traditional music as they know. They tend to think of it as a fossilized form of how that music always was throughout history, not realizing that what they're looking at is simply a specific snapshot of how this music sounds like at a specific point in time, which is right now. Also, one thing that I want to bring attention to is that the way that Greek players play all bowed instruments, I found not just Greek players, but all, again, that region of the world from the Middle East, like the Balkans and everything, what we call the Eastern modal, Ross Daly calls it the Eastern modal traditions. When you show to, let's say, people who are like from Western classical traditions only, like really they only know Western classical, they think that you're playing a little out of tune.
Ah, okay.
But I think the reason is because, and this is a main point that I think defines sort of the Eastern modal traditions. In the Eastern modal traditions, you look at how the vocals are sung. It's similar to how we sing the vocals, right? So if I were to go like Me kalese mi archondis agalani galaziani, it sounds off. It sounds a little.
That's not the song.
That's you know what I mean? Because it's just you're just hitting the note and then that note and then this note and then this note. And how one of my friends put it is that in the sort of Western classical traditions, they sing in bold letters, but like in the East, we sing in cursive.
Absolutely.
We're always there's always some trill. There's always something going on in the vocals, and
100%. It's the same in the playing.
the same applies to the bowed instruments, right? So the bowed instruments, I think the reason they think of it as out of tune is that in the Western classical traditions, it's like you have the 12 notes of the equal temperament, and that's all you have. You can only use those pitches, and everything outside of that is like out of tune.
Right.
But we're like, no, like our melody is gonna hit this, and there's all those
Squiggles.
and it's squiggles. It's so you have like red and yellow and orange, but we use all the colors in between.
You're right.
You've got burgundy, like between like let's say C and D, you've got like a shade of burgundy, and you can always.
That's where all the flavor is. A teacher my bouzouki teacher.
Yeah.
You paid for the whole instrument. Just use it.
I think the big tradition between the tonal tradition and the modal tradition, or as some people put it, the Western and the Eastern tradition, I think the main difference is that in the Western tradition, the note is a specific place.
Right.
For us, it's an area.
Oh, well put.
You
I'm
know-
stealing that one.
Yeah. I don't think, I'm not the first one to have used it. You can. I sang Monsieur Lou recently, and somebody was like, "Oh, you need like classical training because you're not singing like." It's not that I'm not singing on tune. It's that I'm hitting that note, but then there's this little microtone up there, and you just want that.
Quand je bois du vin clairé, ami tout tour, aussi désormais je bois un jour, bois. Quand je bois du vin clairé, sur l'eau moutrali,
We can't play a fucking note without ornamenting it. Basically, that's what.
Yeah. It's like cutting your wings off. What are you kidding?
It's like an Italian without his hand, without using it. We need all the trills and everything. So throughout our discussion, as Dimitrios and I went forward in time gradually, describing the historical evolution of Greek instruments implicitly and explicitly, we always came back to talking about one of the recent important events to happen in the history of Greek music, which is its Westernization. Now, what do we mean, tangibly speaking, in musicological terms, when we say that Greek music became Westernized? Firstly, we have to understand that Greek music historically was always modal. So, outside of the Heptanese tradition, Greek music was always part of the broader modal musical systems. Now, in order to understand exactly what modal means, I would tell you to go watch this video. In it, I describe in very tangible terms what modality entails. But to put it very simply, in this region of the world, when traditions use modal music theory and a modal paradigm, they end up producing a certain sound that most people would feel sounds Arabic or Turkish or gypsy, etc., etc. Now, of course, if you've watched most of my videos, you would know that if you were to overgeneralize things, it would be more accurate to state that Arabic music was influenced by Greek music rather than the other way around. As with many things in this region, the Greeks were obviously an influential people. For the most part, the reason why Greek music has that Middle Eastern twang to it is not because the Middle Eastern Turks conquered them and influenced them. It's because the Turks who came from Central Asia settled in Greek lands and were influenced by Greeks, and they ended up picking the musical systems of the Greeks that we today happen to associate strongly with the Middle East. But again, I have an entire video about that specifically. Now, the Westernization of Greek music means that it began drifting away from a modal musical theory paradigm towards a tonal music theory paradigm. Tonal music is what is colloquially referred to by most people as Western music. Tonality is an alternate, different musical theory and musical paradigm that arises, especially after the end of the Middle Ages, starting from the early modern era in Western Europe, in England, in France, in Germany, etc. And that is where tonality is born. Now, what happens following the immediate liberation of Greece at the hands of the Ottoman Empire, political process back then that permeated every aspect of culture for 2 centuries in Greece was this notion that Greek culture must be reshaped in the image of the Western European cultures.
Well, the people always dictated. Even in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even when they were playing traditional music, especially on the island, even when they were playing the traditional songs, they would also throw in waltzes, foxtrot. Those dances were part of the local repertoire.
Of the local repertoire. That is where the Westernization, or rather the tonalization of Greek music that was natively modal occurs. We see this, for example, in how instruments were built. So you start with the historical instruments of Greece. They were always fretted in a way that allowed you to play the many, many distinct modes of Greek music. Look at the oud, that was completely fretless. That gives you the advantage of being able to play many more notes than the Westerners have in their system, and therefore you have many more modes, hence this music being modal. But it does come with the disadvantage that you can't play their chords. You can't play Western European harmony and chords and everything. But then, as we saw, the oud gradually turns into the lauto, and what you get with the lauto, if you look at it, clearly this used to be an oud. Like clearly, this started out as an oud, right? So you have the body of an oud and everything, but then you have, that's a guitar, And then you add the 12 equal temperament tone and everything, where you have 12 notes per octave, and they are spaced out equally in a way that allows you to now access the Western tonal system. Now, this comes with the disadvantage of now you have lost many of the notes that you had available on the sazi, for example. On the sazi, there were many quarter tones and microtones that you could play. You don't have access to them anymore. I also noticed, tell me if my ear is wrong, I feel like some of the notes weren't perfect, like equal temperament. It didn't feel like minor.
No.
Yeah.
See, that's the beauty of this stuff is that it's so raw. Now what you have is makers that are trying to match them with the Western scales, right?
Equal temperament.
Exactly. So you're losing a lot of the quarter tones.
Yeah.
And you're losing a lot of the flavor of what made these instruments.
What is the situation with, because now I would think with the 12 tone equal temperament, well, you get like Hijaz minor or major. How does it work with, are the modes, the old dromi, are they still a thing?
Not as much as, that's a loaded question. Yeah. So we do play the modes, we play them as pure as possible, but with the elimination of microtones,
yeah,
it's impossible to play them in its original form.
Yeah.
So we've adopted this kind of modal system that we do what we can with what we got.
It's like a compromise between the Western system and everything, right?
Just like we said, it's the crossroads. So we had to find a way to.
Yeah. However, what you lose here, you gain in terms of harmony. Now you have access to Western European harmony. You can start doing chords. Something you couldn't do before with how Greek instruments were built. So in the early 20th century, Greece is at the apex, the height of the Westernization of its music. You go to Athens and the academies and the schools that teach music primarily teach Western music theory, tonal music theory, rather than modal music theory. Now, out of this rises an entire new branch of Greek music that is separate from Greek traditional music. Greek traditional music descends directly from a long unbroken line of 2,500 years of modal Eastern sounding musical traditions reaching back into the medieval Byzantine era and themselves reaching back into ancient Greek music. For those of you who are interested in seeing how some aspects of modern Greek folk music are still perfectly continuous with the oldest forms of ancient Greek music of antiquity, watch that video. It's insane how much continuity there is. But due to that Westernization that is occurring, especially in the high elite centers of Athens and everything, you have the rise of a separate kind of music, which is the whole laiko kind of stuff. And that's the school of very important and influential composers like Theodorakis, for example, who is the one who wrote the Zorba theme.
Theodorakis was his own thing. The laiko and that was, it's completely, I won't say disconnected because there was influence.
Yeah, of course.
It's its own. I think it's when we start getting into composers like Theodorakis, Hadzidaki, the people that actually studied more Western
They're
music.
more from a Western base than a,
I think that once you have that wave, that's when we start seeing crazy chord progressions.
Right. Now you have to understand that laiko, which is kind of like pop in a way, and it wasn't like a regional traditional form of music. It was a new syncretic form of music between elements of Eastern modality, but primarily, fundamentally tonal Western harmonic elements. This becomes the mainstream pop of Greece for a very long time. And composers like Theodorakis, again, they come from a Western musical background and everything, which is why, again, I like the Zorba song, but I hate that it's become the representative of Greek music. The Zorba's dance, like that famous song, fucking song. I like it, I don't hate it. People think that I hate that song.
I hate it.
So you hate it?
I can't stand it.
The thing that drives me mad is when people say, oh, but that's Cretan music. No, it's not. It's not, no, that's not, no, okay.
Well, Theodorakis that wrote it was Cretan.
He was Cretan and Zorba is Cretan, but really fundamentally it's like laiko.
Oh, Yeah.
Of all the fucking music we could have chosen to represent Greece globally, we had to choose a piece of music that is fundamentally tonal and Western and harmonic in nature. It has sprinkles of Greek traditional elements over it, but the fundaments of it are Western and tonal in nature. And that has come to represent a country which historically, at 99%, was a modal musical tradition.
Bouzouki around the time of the 50s, a gentleman of the name of Manolis Chiotis comes in. He was playing guitar, classically, or trained guitar, and he had tremendous speed. Tremendous player. That's him right there.
Right.
So, goes to Joseph, was an Armenian bouzouki maker in Piraeus. Goes, I want to put a fourth string on it. Goes, I want to take it out of the hash house. They start making it, they start crafting this thing, and we have today's bouzouki, which is 4 courses. He wanted to make it something that he could take into an audion. So he could take it to a school.
Because the old school bouzouki is known for having 3 strings, yeah.
3. And that drone. So once you eliminate the drone, you open yourself up to, first of all, being able to start doing some of the classical training. He was also heavily influenced by Django. So you'll hear... So he'll play his hizaz and he'll play it very much guitar style.
Yeah, so that new bouzouki, right? That's capable of playing chords and everything. That addition of another chorus and everything, that really, I believe, like marks the rise of laiko as we know it. That kind of...
It's one of those perfect fusions of everything that happened along the way.
Yes.
You've had guys like Marco Van Vakari, okay? Rebeti to his core, but then you had the post-Marco people like Tsitsani. Vasily Tsitsani took songs that were very simple, very raw, which are kind of more resemble the lauto style, where you play the open strings, and so you have that style, and it starts becoming more civilized. He starts popping in different chord structures and that sort of thing. Then we go into the modern Nisiotika, what we call like Konitopoulo. Yorgo Konitopoulo took a lot of the songs that Pario did, and he made those popular. It's this style. Sounds like a guitar is
it's almost like an acoustic guitar, kind of.
A lot of the mix in there. Otherwise, historically, it was probably just Isokratima where we start seeing like that drone. Anisiotico Sirto in its original form before we start doing the stuff. It's that one is Isokratima all the way through.
Sometimes they go to the subtonic, like a... So for the past century in Greek music, there have been 2 main branches. There was the whole mainstream pop, laiko, rembetiko, Theodorakis kind of stuff, which is really characterized by a very recent 100-year-old adoption of Western European tonal elements, adopting that music theory and creating music based on that music theory, which is characterized by very, very flavorful, advanced, complex harmonies and chords and everything. And on the other hand, you have Greek folk traditional music, which is the more native form of Greek music that has a direct continuity with 2,500 years of musical development, which is rooted in modal music theory. However, even Greek traditional music today is defined by Western European influence to some extent. For example, we talked about how the old modes that are fully macrotonal are not used anymore, and the modes of Greek music are now standardized to meet the demands of 12-tone equal temperament of the Western scales. But there's also chords and harmonies that are added onto Greek folk music nowadays. If you listen to Nisiotika, Cretan music, whatever, you will hear chords and harmonies. But these chords and harmonies are unlike those found in Rambetiko and Laiko and everything. They're very basic forms of harmony and chords that doesn't really change the flavor of a melody. If you start with a traditional melody, right, from, let's say, 300 years ago in Crete, that arises from that modal musical history, you can add certain chords onto it that don't have too strong of a flavor, where they don't really modify the flavor of the music that's there. They just enhance the melody that's already there, but they don't overwhelm it because those chords don't have too much of a strong flavor to them. Again, think of it like salt seasoning rather than some crazy Indian spice or something.
Everything that accompanies those melodies is to push the melody.
It's everything, yeah. And of course we have like the chords now that we put over Nisiotika, for example, and everything. But even if you take them away, it still works.
100%.
Personally, something that I'm very happy about is the fact that this rise in Western European influence in the last century did not ultimately take away anything from Greek music, but mostly just added to it. However, it almost went that way. If you think Nisiotika, like I think violin lauto saduri, maybe, you know, like Yanis Parios recordings and everything. Okay. You never hear Tsabuna and like those.
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't, yeah.
You would. It's not even that long ago that I had a very hard time finding one to start learning. 2003, I remember it distinctly. 2003, I started playing gaida, so I had an idea of what bagpipes were, and I was part of dance programs, so I wanted to find Sabuna. 2005, I finally make it to Greece. I was looking everywhere. There was no Sabuna to be had. I couldn't find it.
That's how hard it was.
Yeah. There was no access to it.
Yeah.
So what did I end up doing? I went to Monastiraki. Luckily, there was somebody there that was selling one. It was the biggest piece of garbage I've ever bought. But at least I had something to go off of. What I ended up doing was taking, this is the original horn from the place that I bought it, and I constructed this.
Yeah.
And because I knew about the reeds, you know, how to make them from playing gaida, I ended up making this to learn.
The reed yourself.
Correct. That's how limited it was just, almost 20 years ago.
Is it better now?
Now I can make a phone call, go on Facebook, and find 5 different guys that know how to do it.
Yeah.
It's until recent years where the younger generation saw this as almost being lost, started applying it back into their repertoires. Askumandura. Askumandura was almost extinct until recent years. It's always just before you lose it that you start appreciating it and you try and revive it.
Yeah.
Plus schools. A lot of schools have opened up. On the islands, there's, you know, teachers for all of this stuff now.
Yeah.
In the mainland, same thing. It's something that didn't exist not too long ago. Now what you have is makers that are trying to match them with the Western scales, right?
Equal temperament.
Exactly. So you're losing a lot of the quarter tones.
Yeah.
And you're losing a lot of the flavor of what made these instruments. Thankfully, I've met enough people, enough makers that are telling me, no way am I going to do it. I'm not spacing them unevenly. It's an even space. That's how it
They're
was done.
keeping the traditional sound of it, yeah.
It was on the brink of extinction, especially on the island of Crete. They don't really play it. There's a few makers now that started making them again.
Yeah.
And that was based on certain pieces that got saved. I mean, literally found in a basement.
Right.
Somebody saw it, said, okay, let's take this.
Right.
You have old players like Cucurelli that we were fortunate enough that he left the island and went and recorded Rebetika with his instrument.
Uti and Kanonaki and Sazi and, you know, like bagpipes, I think they fell by the wayside a little bit
Yeah, of course.
during the previous century. And now you see, for example, the Ferriadotti sisters and everything, you know, one of them plays the oud and everything. Apparently, that's what people have told me, is that the younger generations are much more inclined to go back towards Kanonaki, Udi, Sazi, bagpipes and everything.
Once you've given somebody a glimpse of how beautiful this stuff can
Yeah.
be, there's no reason that it should be lost.
There was a chance that it was on the way to becoming extinct like 100 years ago, many of those elements, you know.
Oh, a ton.
A ton of it, and it didn't happen, thankfully.
Correct.
So we gotta keep it going because it's an old tradition reaching back 2,500 years, constantly evolving and everything, and it's really great to preserve.
Let's do it then.
Let's do it then. Dimitri, thank you so much, my friend.
Ariane, thank you, man.
Thank you so much. It's really good. Like, it's really, really good. I don't know why New Yorkers make such a fuss about this. It's really good. This is for Fergie. Hope you enjoyed the video. And love Chicago. You guys have a great city.